right, Logan. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast today. Really appreciate you and your time. So how about you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been a personal trainer here for like 7 years. I started off in a commercial gym, and kind of after COVID, the lockdowns, kind of pivoted to my own just private one-to-one training studio. And yeah, I've been really liking that.
Yeah. So you said 7 years total you've been training?
Yeah.
And you were at what gym before again?
World Health is just rebranded to like Gym.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was a females only for some reason when they rebranded, but
Some of them are, yes.
yeah, they changed.
Her gym.
Okay. So what was COVID like the big step? Was that like the instigator saying, okay, I have to do this? Or was when it comes to the private gym, or was this something that you've always wanted to do?
I think it's something that's been in my mind for a while, maybe, but I think it definitely sped things up, and like it's easy to get comfortable in doing the same things. And it really plan on making a transition. So it definitely sped things up. And then when that happened is like, at first I just wanted to have a place to work out myself, and then eventually it turned into for clients as well.
Yeah, like when I think of a private gym, that's exactly, I'm like, oh man, you don't have to worry about anybody being there. No machines are going to be occupied. No, that's awesome. So what would you say? Because a lot of people, so in my aspect, obviously it's not feasible for every trainer to start their own gym, right? So on the topic of working for a gym, what would you say are some of the pros and cons, and what's something that you would look out for if somebody is seeking out to be hired by a gym?
Yeah. Well, I think there's kind of two models, right? There's either like, because you started off at a commercial gym too, right? Was it Good Life or something?
Yeah. So like with the online coaching, but when I actually got into the personal training, yeah, I started off with a commercial gym.
Yeah. So like, yeah, for like an actual gym, there's the two. There's either like you can be an employee and they'll pay you per session or per hour or something, or you can just pay like a monthly rent or something. So I guess there's the two models there. So I think at first, I think there's definitely value in going to a place where they can give you some clients, you can get some experience, and then eventually it's good to have like just a set price. You can work with your clients. And I think then it's looking at like that. I really value the equipment. I don't think your clients really care as much. They just care about the experience and stuff like that. But I think as a trainer, that makes a difference, as well as like the environment and stuff like that. I think makes a big difference too.
Okay. So if you had to pick one or the other, do you think it's better coming in, because I know most gyms where you pay per session are going to be like smaller gyms. In most cases, I find that we'll say the clients are already have other trainers. So as a new trainer, would you say it's better to go to a gym like that, or to go to like a big organization where you are an employee rather than a contractor?
I think it's good to get as much experience and learn as much as you can. I think you can get in front of more people as an employee, where they'll give you some clients. I think it's valuable to do that for at least the first bit. I mean, if you have maybe good business experience and you can get some people in front of you really quickly, then maybe you can go the contract route, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess simplified, that's kind of what you did then, right?
Yeah, that's what I did.
But technically your own gym, right? Which, like I said, this is something that I'm really excited about. Yeah. I haven't been here yet. This is my first time here. And for those that don't know, Logan and I worked together a while back. When was that?
2019, 2020? I think it was 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah. Yeah, and I met Logan through another business partner of mine. And we worked together for putting him on the stage. And at that time, you were at World Health, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. And so Logan would come all the way from Edmonton to Red Deer to not only stop in and talk, but you trained with Kevin as well, right? During those times? Yeah. So like, to me, that's commitment, right? You got people like, I've had clients within Calgary that are like, oh, it's too far to drive there. Then you have someone such as yourself making that big distance. But you see the value, right? You see the value in that. And so, that's how we had met originally. Mm-hmm. And then when did you start your own gym here? What year was that?
My own gym here, that would have been, like I first got this space, it was like May 2020. So it was like after the lockdowns, the gyms were all closed, and I wanted to look ahead of like, because I was at that point, it's so uncertain, like how long are the gyms going to be closed, what's going to happen. So
yeah, okay.
I started to transition to that.
So was this solely on your own, or did someone push you to do this, or was this just like, like I'm going to do this for myself, or was like your family involved, or was there any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so it was like my girlfriend at the time. We kind of started together, and kind of trained at separate times and things like that. So I think she definitely pushed me a bit, and like it was something we both wanted to do, but it wasn't like family or anything. Besides that, it was just something we wanted to do, and I wanted to do that myself. I think was a big thing as well. Like I really like having just focusing on the one-to-one, the personal training side of things. There's in a gym, there's so many other things like you got to worry about. Okay, well I want to do this, but the machine's busy, so you got to change.
Yeah.
So there's so much more flexibility in the equipment I have. So
Yeah.
I really like that for sure.
Yeah. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought I saw like Instagram posts before and stuff. Your dad helped you build some of this stuff?
Yeah.
You guys worked together?
It was actually like, so as the lockdowns first happened. And I remember like when I first started as a trainer, he told me, he was like, I have these like, because he used to have a company that built gym equipment in like the 80s or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he told me like one time that like he had this like these parts, like a weight stack. He's like, if you ever want to build something, we can do it. And then when lockdowns came, I called him up. I was like, I remember when you told me that. Can we build something? And he's like, yeah, sure. He's like, I don't have anything to do now. It was lockdowns, so
yeah.
We built that. I guess you can't see it in here, but the lat pull down.
Okay, yeah. And you built this squat rack too, right?
Putting a weight stack in it as well, modifying some other equipment too. So that's helped a lot. But honestly, it was really fun. Like I really enjoyed like with him and kind of customizing, like kind of making it exactly like the squat rack. I've made it the dimensions I wanted exactly.
Yeah, okay. And would you say like if you have the necessary means, i.e. the knowledge and equipment, that was probably a better bang for your buck to go this route, right? Or was it in the end, was it more?
Well, I think we definitely spent a lot less, but I actually spent a lot of time.
Yeah, okay.
In the end, it probably would have been cheaper just to like work and then use that money to limit. But it was also just like that was available to me, and I enjoyed it, and I like being able to kind of customize it. But yeah, it probably in hindsight would have been like more affordable to just because I spent it was a lot of time because like drilling all these holes by hand, it actually takes a while. And you got to set up a jig to make sure everything's centered straight and things like that. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, so it was the process that I liked.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, because I built like this really crappy wood one during the lockdowns, and even that was like extremely time consuming. I couldn't imagine like drilling through metal and everything. And so that's pretty cool, man. Like I said, I admire this whole setup and whatnot. At one point in my career, that's something that I thought about was starting a private gym. But because I've gotten more into the functional realm, I've kind of gone away from personal training. But I still think that a lot of people, like, so I encounter a lot of people and, you know, okay, they might have some sort of functional issues, but their focus is actually getting into the gym. And I think that's a huge step. And an actual big commercial gym can be really scary for some people. And like, understandably so, maybe you feel a little more comfortable with a trainer, but there's still that presence of everybody else there. And depending on the gym that you go to, so for example, like the gym that I will contract out of every now and then with clients, there is some pretty intimidating people there. There's some big dudes, there's some big power lifters, there's weight slamming, and I can understand how that'd be really intimidating. So I think having your own location where that client doesn't have to worry about anybody else, just you who is there to help them, that must be like much more motivating for them to actually come here. But like, I wonder do you find, since you've gone on your own, do you find like clientele has increased? Do you find that they've done better? Or is it kind of more difficult being away from a commercial gym to get individuals in here?
Yeah, I think I actually wasn't expecting that, but I did notice a lot of, like you're saying, like people coming in either because of that or they just mention it of like they're just way more comfortable. I wasn't expecting that's not necessarily why I did it, but that's definitely a huge benefit. But on the same side, sometimes like in a gym, you can work with someone and like show them. Like I've had people also like I've given them a program, like you're gonna do this with this, and like but then I'm going to the gym like, oh, I didn't do that, I didn't feel comfortable. So like I don't actually see them in that process of maybe not feeling comfortable, so I have to kind of help them along there as well.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. But yeah, I've noticed that for sure. And I would say that it was easier to get clients at a gym where there's people walking around, they see you training people.
Yeah,
I've had to focus more on the business side of things, I think. But I've also attracted different or probably a bigger area of people for sure.
Yeah, because you've been hammering Instagram pretty hard lately, right? Yeah, and I love your ideas. I think like the one time when I saw when you did how would you explain that, where there's two of you in one shot kind of thing. I thought that was really neat and everything, and I think that's the reality too. Even though you're not necessarily the online portion, you still have to promote your business that way. And so I think it's great that you're really getting into the Instagram. Which also is another big thing where I just like think of like, oh man, I envy Logan for this, because like you can just come in here and film, and you can just make your content. You don't got to worry about anybody distracting you. You don't got to, go at weird hours trying to avoid people and stuff. And so when you do your filming and stuff, is it just you in here?
Usually, yeah. It's I've definitely realized that it's like sometimes it's like I'll just take as many takes as I want, and like just because like, and at first I definitely wasn't very comfortable. I had to really like kind of hype myself up to like get in front of a camera and speak. It's not something I was used to, kind of thing. So it was definitely easier to start. Yeah, I can imagine going to a busy gym, you're trying to film, like you can't always set up a tripod. You probably bring someone with you to hold a camera or something.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you have a little? Is it King's Fitness that you're?
Yeah, so they actually have a private gym though where you can rent
Okay.
per the hour. And so like I filmed some YouTube content, and that's where I had done it, was by myself. But you're right, like you get in there and like I booked the gym for 3 hours and you feel this pressure because you're like, oh no, I got 3 hours to knock this all off. Or yeah, when you're here, it's just like you can take however long you want. Like you said yourself, you could do as many takes as you want. So where would you say is the most beneficial aspect as someone who owns a private gym for bringing you clientele? Would it be Instagram? Have you done like Facebook ads or anything, Google ads?
Yeah, Facebook ads actually brought me a lot of business at first, and I think especially because it was like, well, the gyms were kind of opening up, people weren't always comfortable, and I blasted a bunch of Facebook ads. I think I was booking appointments for like $5 or $10 per appointment or something like that, which is pretty good, like for like a consultation.
Yeah.
So that worked out really well. Not as well since then, I think, because there's more on Facebook ads. You pay per eye that watches your ad, and there's more competition now. So I was like, but yeah, that was really good at the time. But I think word of mouth is always, and referrals are always the best business. I think they'll give you the best clients if like you can get a good result with someone, and they'll promote you to someone else. I think that's always the best, but you can't always expect that. So you gotta, like I remember at first I was like handing out flyers that got like nothing.
Yeah.
It took so long handing out like hundreds of different flyers, and like not one person called.
And it's so like, oh, it just hits you at home when that happens, right? It's like when you make a video and you only get a couple likes, you're like, oh man, I put so much effort into this. But I still think that I've always said this to people, like one of the biggest feedbacks that I've gotten when other friends, family, clients have talked about my services with others or haven't talked about it, it's because they can't afford you is a big thing, right? And which I always push back against. I'm like, well, first of all, I'm like, how do you know that? Second of all, priorities. But the thing is like that shouldn't stop you. So it's like putting out those flyers. Although nothing came back, you might have what I call plant the seed. So someone saw that, right? They probably saw your flyer. And then one day they go to the doctor's office and the doctor says, you need to be exercising more. And that they're going to go, well, you know what? I actually saw something, this guy at a private gym. And so I think although you don't get the outcome that you were hoping for, I still think something was done. And that took me a long time to learn for myself. And that's why I always say, like the content that I'm currently making right now, I'm just like, 5 views is better than no views, right? And as much as we all want things to explode and we all want that recognition and everything, at the end of the day, if you're not putting that out there, then your chances are significantly lower. And so I appreciate someone who takes that effort, like handing out flyers, because that's something that I've always really slacked off at. But would you say that with training in this gym, have you ever thought about part-time at another gym? Because I know some people, it's like working 2 jobs to get to where you want to be, right? Has there ever been a moment where you're like, okay, maybe I should go back to a commercial gym while still doing this so I can build up my clientele?
I have thought about it, yeah. Because I do actually, I share this gym with another person as well. Like they'll have the mornings and like on some days, so I've like been enough to be as busy as I need to be. But I've thought about it, but it's like I know people that have something similar and they'll work at a commercial gym, as well, like at different times when it's busy or something. But I also I've looked at it and it's like, well, I don't like this equipment as much because I've like handpicked every piece that I want. So I really like training people here, and it's I've thought about it, but I am planning on getting a bit more like online coaching to kind of expand the business that way, I guess. So that's what I'm doing next.
So you didn't do any online coaching right now? No. Have you ever in the past?
No.
No, it's just been strictly personal training.
Yeah.
So with the online coaching then, are you going to be branching out? So for those that don't know, sorry if you did already mention this, Logan is actually located in Edmonton. And so if you guys are in the Edmonton area, like I promise you, Logan's the guy to go to. I've worked with Logan. He's a very knowledgeable person. Okay. He is like I don't trust many people when it comes to this industry. Logan is one of them that I do trust. So if you're in the Edmonton area, definitely check him out. We'll get your credentials, or sorry, your information at the end of this. But are you looking to branch further than Edmonton, or are you looking to stay local?
Work with anywhere for sure. I'm curious what your thoughts are, like, because you worked, I did a lot of in-person, like, one-to-one training. That's also something I'm not, like, I have to build a system stuff. I'm not sure how it's going to go. Like, I feel like it's easier for me in person. Like, I can look at someone's form and all this, and I can see how they're doing. What was your experience with that, I guess, going from in-person to online? Like, was there...
Well, so I did the online prior.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so I've always done online, and then I got into personal training. Just change of pace and change of things, and just some life events happen. So this is one way to help build the business back up. And you're right, with the online training, a lot of people don't understand how important the training actually is. We think it's just as simple as coming in and lifting weights to get specific results, but they don't understand kind of like what's occurring within their physiology when they're lifting that weight. And that is where, when you have people, so I've actually had instances where you eventually get good enough to pick this out even without seeing how someone performs an exercise. But sometimes someone can work too hard, like especially if you're dealing with functional issues, because that training can create inflammation and kind of work against them. So then you have to know how to program to compensate for that, right? You also, on the other spectrum, you have some people that I don't want to use the word work hard enough, but maybe are not quite achieving that stimulus that you had intended when you constructed this program. So then when you get the feedback coming in, you do their check-ins and everything, then you can adjust that program. And I think personal training really helps me understand that and see that in person, because then now you understand how a person is going to function within a gym setting, and you gain that experience. Because I'm sure yourself, you've had some clients that, probably like overdo it. Like I have a client who, very, very close to me, who he just cannot go to failure, right? And for what those don't know is, like, there's many different forms of failure, but in the gym, let's say, to keep it simplistic, you cannot perform another rep, right? He doesn't want to accept that, right? And so this individual will push past the point that he should go, which will result in maybe not bringing the best results based off the programming. So having that experience and seeing that people do this really helps with the online portion, because then okay, well, I see this person's body is responding this way. I actually had a client one time that responded this way. So this is probably what's happening. So now I can make the necessary changes, right? Or vice versa. Because a lot of the times too, here's the complications that you run into with online coaching is you're not there, right? So one, you're not there to correct their form. So then you'll get some feedback, or you'll see in body composition photos, something happens, I got one shoulder higher than the other or something like that, right? But also a lot of your limitations are in your mind, right? So you'll have individuals, like I had an experience one time, I trained this one female, and she was on the leg extension, and she made 50 pounds on the leg extension look like it was 500 pounds, like just the facial expressions and everything. And when she wasn't looking, I pretty much doubled that weight, and she did the exact same thing, right? And so you could tell it was just something in her mind, which that is, you don't have control over that with the online coaching. But once again, having that experience as a personal trainer and then going into the online portion, I think that'll really benefit you, right? And you have great knowledge. So when you start this online portion, what is going to be your niche, your demographic? Like, what are you looking for to attract?
Yeah, I mostly work with like body composition, people want to lose fat or gain muscle.
Okay. So not necessarily like major health issues kind of deal?
Not necessarily, like something, like if someone had really big, I'd prefer someone like you for sure. But if like some, a lot of people do come in with lifestyle stuff, and it's, like as I've learned from you, like working, how it's helped me during the prep for that show we did, like looking at the stress, looking at how you're sleeping, all those things, like always going to have to work with people on that. And most people probably come in with some kind of issue, like everyone's lifestyle could probably be a little bit better for sure. So like that kind of stuff, but like nothing major health related. Is like, that's not my demographic. No. Do
you think you'd eventually branch into that?
Who knows? I don't know. I really really like the fitness side of things, just
Yeah.
the results focused on, losing fat or gaining muscle. Right now I'm really liking that.
I think what a common thing is a lot of people get into the online and then they start off, as you're mentioning, like within the fitness realm, but then all of a sudden you bring someone really great results. So they go to their friends or family and they're like, hey, like this guy brought me really good results. You should check him out. So then you begin to work with them and you're like, hey, well, this person isn't getting the same results. So you say you want to stick within fitness, but then you want to help people. So then next thing you know, you find yourself, okay, well, you start to educate yourself more. You start to do more courses. And that's what happened to me. Like when I first started in this, like I had my good friend of mine who was my first ever client, just so I could showcase like, do I know what the hell I'm doing, right? And he had gotten, like there were great results, but it was like I mentioned this on one of my podcasts, it was like a 30-pound drop in 1 month.
Really?
Right? And so knowing what I know now, water, inflammation, blow, like it wasn't like a ton of fat loss. But at the time you're like, whoa, this is amazing. And so you create this name for yourself and you have other people coming in and they're like, okay, yeah, like you got really great results. I want these results, but they're completely different. So you come in here and you kind of do the same protocol that you had used with this individual because, man, he got great results. So this person's obviously going to get great results, and they don't. It fails horribly. But because you have that determination to help people, then you start to branch into other avenues. And I always think, like everybody says, they want to stay within the fitness realm. But then when you go online, eventually I feel like you're going to find yourself wanting to educate yourself further and getting more involved with, we'll just call it the more technical stuff.
Yeah.
Because as a society, I feel like that's the way we're going. So, which brings me like, when you started training 7 years ago, what are some of the differences that you've noticed, not only with like your education, but with like human bodies and the type of clients you see that come to you? What is something that you've noticed over the years, like in terms of changing?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that. Have you noticed anything?
So what I notice is our environment is getting more stressful.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't just mean relationships per se. Yes. Like when you're dealing with individuals, they were much easier to bring results because they, like you look at that whole lockdown situation, like that sent a lot of people.
We definitely noticed changes since the lockdown, I would say.
Right. And
people like, I gained pounds since 2020. You're like, there's lots of that for sure.
Yeah. And so then this environment is creating this difficulty of bringing people results or whatever. But I think I do believe that is the difference though between like a personal trainer and someone who does the actual coaching aspect, is because, correct me if I'm wrong, but like when I personal train, they came in here, we trained, and then they went home and that was it. Like you weren't really doing check-ins afterwards. You were maybe doing like let's say body composition calipers, checking body fat percentages, measurements during the training session, but you weren't really dealing with them after the fact. And most of the time, once again, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're personal training someone, you become a therapist, right? Whether you like it or not. But it's more about them talking about relationships or work or family, not always health issues. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be like, there's going to be rest times in the gym. You're not always going to be talking about, like at first you can educate them on different things, the tempo, the form, and different things they can think about. But yeah, eventually there's just like great time where like you're going to just talk about random stuff. Where online you can just focus your time on solving people's issues and stuff, right? Yeah. So like, yeah, you don't want to just be like a rental friend for the hour, obviously.
A rental friend, I like that.
Yeah. So, but I found that, I think as a growing trainer, I've definitely tried to do more of like, make sure like that I've given them a program to do, and like, especially at first, the first few weeks in the month, like first month, like check up with them, like, how did this go? How did that go? Like maybe give them something to work on for nutrition and check in with them. And I found people have really appreciated that. It might not be, I don't always do like necessarily like weekly check-ins and things like that. That might be something like a hybrid online and in person. Yeah. Like that's something I could incorporate, right? Yeah. But I've always tried to focus on that as much as I can, but there's definitely some side of that where there's going to be a social aspect to it for sure too. Yeah. Okay. So what you said you touch on nutrition and stuff. So what are some of the things you implement right now as a personal trainer for your clients other than just physically training in the gym? Yeah, so like usually, it's like especially if someone wants to, like I do have people that come in, they're like, I don't want to change much, I just want to like feel better, or maybe they want to manage pain, and like it'll just be focused on that. Like some people don't want to work on nutrition, they're not open to it, I guess, but most people is like if they want to lose fat, or like they want to, and then I'll usually start with like doing a week of like tracking their food, see where they're at, and then from there I tend to find people do better with different things. So like some people might be really good with like tracking macros, or other people might be better with like looking at even just simple like habits or things like that. Because some people, you might tell them to track their food, and they do for a couple days, but then they can't keep up with it or something. So I try and meet people where they're at as best as I can, I guess.
Yeah. So what do you use to track people's food? Because that's a big thing, because I know a lot of people resort to MyFitnessPal. Is that the one that you use?
So that's I think it's most accessible, and it's easier for people to use. Like something like Chronometer is going to be more accurate and things like that, but like it's easy for people to like scan a barcode, and like there's usually going to be more food options. So if people are on the go, I found that a lot of like people like, well, I don't know how to track this, and that's something you have to work on. Because if they're out eventually or something, and they're not, like not everyone's gonna be like weighing everything. So like there's more options of like you can look at volume, or you can look at grams, or you can look at this. So I think there's more options on MyFitnessPal and things like that, but it is not as accurate for sure.
Yeah. And I don't think MyFitnessPal has like the micronutrient intake, does it?
It does, but I don't think it's
does it? Oh, okay.
Like it's most of it. There's like spaces for whatever, I think, maybe not all the nutrients, but at least like some of them, I think. I could be wrong, I guess.
Yeah, I won't know. I don't use MyFitnessPal. I use Chronometer.
Yeah.
But the difference with me, as you mentioned, like MyFitnessPal is more accessible and stuff. I don't really give my clients a choice. A little more hard ass on that, right?
That's what you do. That's fair.
But that's because the way that I construct my plans is based off Chronometer. So it's like being on the same page.
That makes sense.
Right? So if you're trying to fit your macros using MyFitnessPal, they could be off by like, who knows, maybe a couple hundred calories. And then there's this discrepancy between the two, and you kind of have more difficulty assessing this individual and making the right decisions. Right? So do you offer like nutritional education as well with that, or you just get them to track their food?
I would say that's something I do, like probably during the sessions, is like if we're resting, that's where we might talk about them, or like I would say accountability is a big thing as well for like people that are seeing an in-person trainer, is just ask them how things are going, and like even just simple things like planning ahead of time, preparing meals, things like that. I think that can make a big difference for a lot of people for sure.
Yeah, okay. Because like the reason I asked that is I was just thinking, like one time I had a client who she was gaining weight, and I'm just like, at the time, like the way I was taught, if somebody doesn't get the results, they're cheating. And like it took me a few years to get over that. And that's what I mean by like our environment gets more stressed, and you begin to understand that, okay, they might not be cheating. But in this instance, I was just like, no, this person's cheating. She's gonna laugh because I told her I talk about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And she was eating edamame beans as her vegetables.
Okay.
Right. And so we calculated, it was probably an extra 3,000 calories a week, I think it was, that she was eating. And so this is why she was gaining weight. So this is why I think, although personal trainers are not per se nutritionalists, I think it's important to have like a little bit of that education to help. It's like people, when they look at vegetables, they look at potatoes.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, well, okay, understandably so, a potato is defined as a vegetable, but I am not using them as vegetables. I am using them as a carb source, right? Because the type of vegetables that I use when I talk vegetables is always non-starchy, because it's like minimal calories, because you're going to expend more trying to digest these vegetables anyways. So I think it's important that personal trainers at least have a little bit of education in that aspect, because these people are going to come to you and be like, hey, look, like, what do you think I should be eating, or how much should I be eating? And so it's important to have that. So I like that you kind of have that aspect to help those people. What would you say is your most common client?
Most common?
Yeah.
Type of client?
Yeah.
I would say like average age 25 to 45. I think I get a bit more males than females probably.
Really?
You say you get a lot more females. Say probably 60-40, I'd say. Not a huge difference, 60-40.
Really?
But I noticed even on Instagram, like it's like 80% males that are like following me, and like
really?
So it's apparently
I'm the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I'm the complete opposite. Like when I looked the other day at my analytics, it was like 7% males and the rest is all females. Yeah. And I don't know in my situation why. I do feel like males are more inclined to personal train, like to be with a personal trainer, but not necessarily follow said program, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That's what I find. So when you're talking supplements and nutrition and lifestyle things, I find there's a bit of like, men don't think they need help in that aspect, unless they're like the bodybuilding realm, which then that is exactly what they're seeking. If I find it's the opposite with competitors. Competitors don't really get involved with personal training, but they'll get involved with the coaching side. So do you train any competitors here?
I haven't.
In the gym? No. Is that something you'd want to get into?
I don't think I really want to get into the contest prep side of things. No.
Why is that?
I don't know. I didn't like. Yeah, well, we did that competition when I worked with you. I liked it. I liked the process, but I think I like the process and like learning from you more than I actually like the day on stage. Is like you get your 5 minutes up there, and I don't know. It just didn't vibe with me completely. I liked it, but it wasn't. And it's also like at what expense is like there's lots of people are taking drugs and steroids and diuretics and stuff. There's so much of that. And it's like, well, at what expense just to look good for a day?
So let's talk about the pros and the cons with you stepping on stage, starting from like the prep, the whole process. What are some of the pros and cons? What are some of the things that you felt may have been different or could have been different?
Could have been different.
Yeah.
Yeah, could have done different. I feel like, I think one thing that could have been nice is like, because I worked with you, was it 4 or 5 months leading up to the prep?
I believe so. Yes.
I think it would have been nice to maybe have a bit more time, especially like after the show. I think even just mentally, like it can be easy to, I was pretty good, but like there's a lot of people that maybe have the post-show rebound or something, they gain more weight. But there's definitely some times where I like ate a little bit too much and stuff like that.
Fair.
So I think it would have been good just even mentally having someone to tell you what to do, because I think it's, and then set yourself up for success going forward. And even just before, like I think we were talking before, like I probably could have gained some more muscle, and I think working with a coach, because I'm not necessarily going to plan to, especially naturally, gain some muscle while I'm cutting and prepping for in just 4 months, right?
Yeah.
If I had more time before, it would have been ideal, I think.
Yeah. So the dummy that I am, I did not replace the batteries in my audio recording device. So we're kind of starting over here. And we were talking though about the stage and how politics are involved and stuff. And so obviously, like not meaning to be totally biased, but as my client, I thought you came in very well. I thought you were very conditioned, but the reality is we were talking about like mass monsters, for example, and people want to see size. So like, for example, your friend that placed in front of you, he was wider. Yeah. Definitely not as conditioned, but he was wider. And so what we were talking about was, it's sad sometimes to see these individuals put in lots and lots of work, pour their heart into this. Like I said, you were super committed, one of the hardest workers that I've worked with, and then to just kind of like place less because of a guy having a little more size than you, right? And I think like this hits women really, really hard because of the politics involved. And you even look at things like fake breasts. Yeah. Right? They'll get scored.
Their hair looks better, their makeup's done better, their face is prettier even maybe.
100%, right? And so, like you got to look at it, okay, well, that's part of the competition. But at the same time, it's just like, these people put in a lot of work into their physique, hoping to, place really well. And sometimes when they don't, because of various reasons, it makes it very difficult for them. And I think that's where a lot of the post-show rebounds come from. Like, understandably so, yes, the extreme calorie deficits and what it does to the psyche and the physiology and whatnot and ghrelin levels. But I also think it's sad for some people, right? It's sad for some people that they didn't place better. And I remember you and I had that conversation and we were talking about like what could have been done better. And I don't believe we caught this part, but I personally feel like we maybe could have pushed you a little harder and got you in a little more conditioned. And maybe that higher level of conditioning could have potentially outweighed the guy having the size ahead of you. Hindsight, obviously, right? But you were saying yourself that you came out with your health. Like I remember your one comments, like your blood pressure improved.
Yeah, it was better, going through. I was doing more cardio. That's probably mostly why. Yeah, right. And like the other coach, Kevin we work with, he's told me not do any cardio and which is fine, I guess. But he's like, I was purposely not doing cardio before, so that way when we did it, add cardio, it was like I got more of a stimulus, right? Which might have some value, but like I wasn't doing any, and then I started doing some, and then it's like just my health got better because I was probably eating better too. Just lifestyle was better in that sense. But I guess we could have pushed that deficit more. But I see how as a coach, maybe like it's disheartening to see I should have gotten better. But honestly, and that's probably why I'm not necessarily want to do another one. It's like I didn't really care if I got 4th or 5th as long as I like if we could have done better, then that's cool. But I just compare myself to myself, I guess, more. Like, I don't care if I'm fourth or third or second. Like, so maybe that's why I didn't vibe with it completely either, because I'm not too competitive in that sense either. Yeah,
like if you want to succeed in bodybuilding, like you have to make it
for sure
your life.
Yeah,
like, and that's what like my previous podcast guest Matthew and I were talking about. Like, you got to make it your life, right? And so one thing though, curious, you stepping on stage, how did that affect your business? And so the reason I asked this is because, so for example, like those that know me know I'm heavily involved with disease and such, right? And here's how I kind of explain it to make sense to people. If I'm stepping on stage, super shredded, walking around in board shorts or a Speedo, Jonathan with stage 4 prostate cancer is most likely not going to work with me. Right? Now, for you, did you find that it benefited you? Did it, work against you? What would you say was the experience?
It definitely worked against me. If I was like definitely trying to pursue the coaching competitor side of things, which I don't think I am, then might have benefited me more. I would say after the competition, people noticed that, and I was leaner, so that it definitely helps being more in shape as a trainer. People, I think they look at that and they judge you based on that a bit for sure. So like the leaner, the more muscle you have as a trainer, the more people at their first glance might be like, oh, they know what they're talking about or something, right? But it wasn't something I necessarily promoted. Like, I did this show or something, so I didn't really use it to promote it, because that's not necessarily what I wanted to be known for. I guess, but probably benefited me at least indirectly for sure.
Okay, so in your experience, because I've had this conversation with some people before, now, especially with your demographic of clientele, you made the comment though that yes, being leaner and stuff, they get that initial aspect, but do you believe that it might be too intimidating for some people?
It definitely could. Yeah, I could see that.
So would you feel that being less lean would be more, let's say, relatable and attract more clientele?
It could. It depends on the type of client for sure. I think, like, I would say especially like maybe client that is looking at like, I want to gain a lot of muscle or something, or like maybe the more muscle building clients, they might look at like, oh, I have a trainer that's really jacked or something. But yeah, like we were talking about before, like someone that's maybe there, especially coming here, they might not be completely comfortable going to the gym. And honestly, those might be the people that can benefit from the most from working with a trainer and like improving their health more than someone that's like, I want to get from 18% body fat to whatever, 15 to 11 or something, right?
Yeah.
I want to get super shredded. I think there's definitely more that you can improve. Someone that's going from, maybe never been to the gym before to making that a part of their life.
Yeah. And I don't know if this part cut off or not, but we were talking about how competitors are less likely to work with personal trainers and stuff. That is actually one thing that Kevin always said to me. He was like, you don't want to get involved with competitors, right? And I understand why he would mention that, because more, we'll call them lifestyle clients, I guess, would be more willing to work with somebody, especially if they're more relatable. Because I know when I was first up and coming in this, I'm not really sure what the intentions were behind this, but people would show me like their nutrition programs or something. And I would maybe I maybe wouldn't do this or do that or whatever. And then they instantaneously pull their phone, this is my coach, right? And they would show me their coach, and they're like all super shredded on the stage and everything. And I can't say anything because that was me too. I used to do that with Kevin, all right? If anybody would say anything and like I would try to educate them, they'd be like, well, this is who I learned from or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I think if you're trying to get involved with competitors, it's like, yeah, you definitely are going to want that size. Now, I kind of retract that statement, because the thing is like, you could be the most knowledgeable human being on earth. But yeah, like if it's that whole, you got to be talking the talk, got to walk the walk. But maybe you don't want to put yourself through that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate that some like bodybuilders and stuff won't seek out guys such as yourself, who does have a great understanding of biomechanics, who does have a good nutrition background, who understands the health aspect, right? But you also do understand that, in order for you to get to this place, you are going to have to sacrifice a little bit of health. And because that's one of the questions that you had asked me was, could you do this in a healthy way? You could do it healthier compared to some, but there is technically nothing really healthy about getting to single-digit body fat percentage and stepping on stage, right? And I've always said, like, people are like, oh, bodybuilders are crazy. I'm like, well, you have to be. You have to be crazy to put yourself through that. And so that's where I think, like, like someone like you, not that you couldn't do it, but I just don't think you have that crazy in you. And I mean that in a positive manner, right? You're a level shouldn't be careful when I say a level-headed individual, right? No offense to anybody else, but like I said, you kind of have to be that level of crazy to take yourself to that point. And like when we were working together, like I said, I was very impressed with the way your body had responded to everything, and every week there was some form of progression. And I think ideally for the general population, the way your prep looked, that is very attractive. Like that is, someone would be like, okay, well, this guy, he got in decent, like pretty good shape, but he didn't like starve himself to death. And although you probably were hungry at times and everything, he didn't starve himself to death. We only exercised 4 times a week? I don't think we ever pushed 5, did we?
I think
Did we?
we might not have.
Not near the end.
I have not near the end.
Yeah, definitely not near the end. And so I think the way you had done it is much more achievable for the average person. Now, please understand, I'm not taking that away from you. Like, you worked very hard, but I think that's more inclined for someone like when you have a conversation, let's say a client comes into your gym and, you know, they see photos of you competing on stage and they ask you what that is like.
Yeah.
I think that would be a better conversation than being like, oh, I did 60 minutes of cardio every single day and only 1,200 calories and right, I couldn't get out of bed and I had no sex drive and like, you know what I mean? And so I think for you, if utilizing that, it would be a big benefit for you to have that conversation with people and actually promote that. Okay, yes, I've stepped on stage, but here's how I had done it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I guess I didn't think about that. I have used that in some ways kind of indirectly. I could have, I didn't promote like, oh, this is my prep. I didn't really post much on social media about that, or this is how I looked, but I did, like, especially a lot of people coming to me, they want to lose weight and they're like, oh, I'm eating 1,200 calories. That I would tell them about, especially like after the competition, I'd tell them like, oh, when I started doing this prep, I was out only eating like 2,700 calories. Mm-hmm. So I would just, like, as an example to relate to them, like, I was eating this much, and then, and like just as a way to tell people, is like, well, we can start here and then we can see you change, and then we can like, I'd adjust it from there, because a lot of people do go into, they want to lose fat, so like, well, what's the lowest I can have my calories? What's the most I can work out?
Yeah.
So it was a way to definitely relate that to people, that like, well, this is what I did and it's worked for me, and even your examples of my clients as well. Like, I found that's helpful for people, because I think some people have that block of like, well, I should just eat less, and like I found it does help to like give a bit of a story and give an example. Like, well, my client here, we only ate, even sometimes give a number, like we only ate 2,300 calories and he was losing weight. Sometimes giving them an example, like, oh, then they can see it's obviously everybody's different. It's not like but it's just I guess a way to relate to people. I found that's helped.
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes too, it's one of those times where it's like every now and then you need to pull out those stage photos to remind people what you're capable of. You know what I mean? I've found that, you know, like I've had to do that sometimes, because people will doubt, oh, it's like, well, what do you know? You've never, and then I've been down to single digit body fat. No, I've never stepped on stage. But sometimes you got to remind people that, look, I am capable of this, and this is something that we can work towards. Yeah. And so I think, like I said, I think depending who you are, the stage could be a great experience if you're involved in this industry. It's a test of someone's mental willpower, their physicality and everything. And it helps you learn.
100%, yeah. Right?
So when you start to get involved with specific clients, even if they're not competitors, you'll know, okay, well, I understand what it's like to go through X, Y, Z. So you can, because I'll never forget, that was something that was said to me, was like, you're not ready to train competitors because you don't know what it's like to put your remote in the freezer by accident. Meaning you don't know what it's like to go to extreme deficits and lose willpower and fatigue. And so, when I took myself there, I was like, damn, I was like, this is brutal. Like, I couldn't even get up out of the chair or anything. Like, it's just exhausted, right? And so you gain this like appreciation of, okay, this is what these individuals are going for, but that doesn't just apply to bodybuilders.
No.
Right? So you said yourself, you get these individuals that come to you and they're only eating 1,200 calories. You know damn well they're going to be lethargic.
Yeah, maybe not at first, but
like, you know damn well. So you're like, okay, I know what this person is experiencing.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's like me with my gut health issues, because I work with a lot of gut health. So when I have people expressing their emotions to me, I was like, yeah, like, I don't want to say I understand because I'm not you, but like, I've been through something similar. And so it helps you coach these people better. So although it's not something that you really vibe with, I still think it's a wonderful thing that you stepped on stage and put that effort forth and experience that kind of thing. And plus there's that's confident, like, just to get up on stage and pose in front of everybody. And I don't think I could do it. Like, I really don't think I could do it. I'd be too nervous or.
Yeah, it was definitely the first, because there was, I think you go up like twice or something. The first one I was really nervous, but by the second time it was way better. It was. I think I definitely could have done better on the posing. That might be why I
Fair, yeah.
but I would say one thing that I did find I liked about it was just like having that external, like this is a date. It kind of does push you. It's like, well, I got to really like be 100% consistent with everything, which might not be realistic like 100% of the time through your life for sure, but like just to have that time to see what you can do. So I've definitely thought like what would it look like if I did it again, and maybe even for me, I'd probably be more just like maybe set a date for like a photo shoot or something, because if I don't want to compete, that's probably more what I do. But what do you think? Like if I were to go on stage again, if you were to coach me, or if a photo shoot to get lean, what do you think could have been done differently? Like
so
time?
Yeah, like I think right now someone like I think you would do really well stepping on stage, and not trying to sound like a douche, but I've grown a lot, and so I think we'd work together a lot better. But also, most competitors are constantly trying to stay lean, which hinders them. It takes away from their best package that they could bring, where you spent a lot of time not focusing on that, where you're eating sufficient amount of food and you've been training accordingly. So your metabolism is going to be in a really good place to do something like that, but you do stay relatively lean year round, right? And so I think that's to your benefit. But once again, too, though, I look at it as, because how old are you, Logan?
25.
Right? The older you get, you start to realize, like, so for example, like you're focusing on your business, right? You've invested all this time and money into this private gym, into training clients and everything. It's like, okay, do I want to take away from that to put forth into bodybuilding, to put forth into stepping on stage? But then you have to look at, okay, well, what are some of the pros and cons that I'm going to receive from this? Because as mentioned, like putting yourself through that could be very admirable to some, and it could attract a lot of clients. And so it's just a matter of sitting down and thinking. It's like, is that where your head would be at? Is like, have you considered stepping back on stage?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do it just for a business of like authority and things. I don't know if I'd do it just for that. I'd do it because I want to do it as well. But I have noticed that definitely starting this business was a lot of time, like how much time it took to build the equipment. And even at first I was really focused on that. And even I did have to work harder at first to like get clients and stuff. So I've just focused so much on that. So I probably did neglect my fitness a little bit more, especially at first in COVID. That was some stress for me. From other things as well. So I think in the future, like just going forward, like it's pretty good setup. I'm like, I don't really even have room for much more equipment. Like that. Eventually I'll probably expand it in some way, but at this point I'm definitely focusing less on the business because it's kind of in a good spot and can kind of focus on fitness a bit more. So it might be in the future. But I think a photo shoot, like something like that, probably more.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah, especially like you got your own area too, so you could do lots of photo shoot stuff in here. And like when you look at the gym setting of what most people, do for photo shoots, this is like the perfect environment kind of thing, like it's darker and stuff. And so for those that are only listening in, like Logan here, like I said, he's based out of Edmonton, super well equipped. We got a functional trainer in here, cable machines. We got my favorite hack squat. We got benches. He's got a turf, squat rack. Is that Prime Fitness or is that a different company?
No, so that's Strive.
Okay,
Prime bought out Strive like 10 years ago. So it's the same company, but it's like the old.
So same mechanics kind of thing.
The cam is adjustable, so you can especially like you're looking at the row. Row machine, you can make it, especially for lats, like to be able to really make it heavier when it's in that lengthened stretch position. That's something you can't really do in like even on the cables and dumbbells. You can't do that with anything else. So.
Yeah, no, we got this guy here, the leg, because this is both leg curl and leg extension, right? Yeah, like you're equipped, man. Like you got so much going on in here, and like
I'm curious if you were training here, if you were training clients, what would you? Is there anything else you would?
The only thing I would do is I'm extremely biased to this. Is I would sell that and get the one where the arms move.
The arms do move.
No, I meant like out like this.
Yeah, they do.
Really?
Yeah.
Feels like
I can show you later.
Oh yeah.
They don't go as wide.
Okay, yeah.
But they go from about
oh really?
They go from about 16 inches to about like I think it's 5 feet.
There you go.
They don't go as wide. No, I got that one specifically because the ones that have the arms move a lot, they take up a lot more room.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
No one can see this, but they like moved it. They moved this way.
Okay.
So I actually specifically got that one because the arms move and it's so much better. But it actually takes up a little less space. So I actually drove like 1,000 kilometers to pick that one up. We drove to like BC. It was in the middle of winter. It was like snowing. I picked this thing up, put it in the back of my minivan. It's kind of sketchy actually driving.
See, that's commitment. That's amazing, man.
But no, you're right. Having the arms move on a functional trainer is huge.
Yeah, and like, is it important? No, right? That's just me being picky or whatever. But I honestly think this is perfect setup. Like,
so besides that, then.
Oh man, like you got everything. Like you even have like the special trap bar, everything. Like anything that anybody could ever need is in this gym. Like I can't think of anything else that would, you already got the hack squat, which is, to my
Getting
opinion,
a pendulum soon. That's the next.
I was just going to say,
It's gonna replace that. Though.
you're going to replace the hack squat?
Yeah, you like the hack squat more, hey?
So I think for your demographic, I think the pendulum will be better.
It's nice to have. I think it's way more stable and it's easier just to put someone in there and just get some work done. Like,
Yeah.
So it's gonna have adjustable foot plate too, so we can kind of target it.
Is it the Atlanta or Predator?
No, it's I'm actually getting it locally made. There's a kind of gym equipment company in Edmonton that's making one, and it's based off the Atlantis. Like we made it based on those dimensions, but like the Predator one were the
Nice. That's awesome, man. Yeah, so King's Fitness actually got a pendulum squat. Not the adjustable foot pad though, but it still works. And yeah, like there is much more positive feedback.
Yeah.
On that machine. A lot of people.
It's nice to just put someone on there and you can just like.
Yeah. I personally love the hack squat more. Yeah. I like the hack squat more. But I'm also very nuanced about things, and I won't get into as why. But I think this is a perfect setup, man. And like, I'm not just saying this because you're on the show or whatever. Like, I've always respected you and thought you've done really well. And this was something at one point in my life that, like, this is what I really wanted to do, is what I imagined for myself, until I started to get more into the functional realm. And then I kind of realized that, okay, I want to phase out personal training. But that's why I said, anytime like someone contacts me, especially obviously in the Edmonton area, like who to go to, I'm like, I only know one guy. That's all it's going to be. And so anybody that wants to train here, man, like you got everything. Like I can't think, like I'm just looking around here, like I can't think.
You're trying to think of something.
Yeah, there's always something you could add, but like, do you need to? No.
You know, I really kind of wanted was like a bicep curl machine. That's just kind of like a preference. Yeah, like you don't need it. You can train that in.
Exactly.
You can do cables. There's so many options for that. But especially like having machines for the stuff that you can't do with dumbbells and barbells, especially like leg and back machines. I found that's the stuff that's worth having. Whereas like you go to a gym and it's like they got 4 bicep curl machines and like half the machines aren't even that great anyways. Like some mechanics aren't good. So I can just focus on getting the ones that are good and gonna use the space most efficiently, right?
Yeah, and that's the key word there too. Like, because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't care at the same time either. But I know like you are a little nuanced as well. And when you mentioned the word mechanics and stuff, so for example, like when we were talking about your row, it has the adjustable cam. And what he means by that is you can adjust the cams to where the resistance is harder. So whether that be when your arms are stretched or when you're contracted, and it can help stimulate different benefits of whatever you're trying to achieve within that workout. So I think that's a valuable tool. And that's what I mean, like to have that knowledge and understanding and know that's what I need to invest in. I think that puts you above the rest. Because not only, you're going to be able to utilize that to bring people better results. So like, for example, like when you talk about you want individuals to stay away from creating too much inflammation, you know exactly what to do to prevent that. And you have the necessary equipment, which a lot of people don't understand. They think coming in and lifting a dumbbell is the same as that bicep machine with an adjustable cam, right? You have much more options with an adjustable cam for stimulating a response within an individual. So what are you doing right now for your workout program? Like, what are you personally doing?
Right now I'm doing a short kind of like AMPK, which would be like the very short rest, same muscle group, like short, kind of what you're actually talking about, like less inflammation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mostly because I was doing some hypertrophy stuff, and then I was like staying up really late editing and stuff because I was doing more social media, and was like, my recovery wasn't as good. My digestion went down a bit, so I was like, I need to take a step back. And then, so that's what I'm doing right now, but it's just for another week and some more hypertrophy.
So do you use those, we'll call it periodized approaches with your clients as well?
Yeah, I would say, always to some extent. Yeah.
Would you say, how's that conversation go with them? Would you say that's like an obstacle?
It sometimes is, more with people that like have training experience and like they have an idea in their head of how things should be already. Right. But I think over time when people see and experience it, then you get more buy-in, right?
100%. And so like speaking of my own experience very recently, I had 2 clients in the gym who it was like 30-second rest periods all the time, just in and out. Yeah. And so we wanted to promote more strength and some more neurological function. So as you know, longer rest periods, right? So sitting there just like, you're trying to kill time. And that was very hard for them because they're so used to being the fast pace. But also too, individuals come into a gym and I'd say a good percentage of them, they think like that extreme fatigue at the end of a workout is the sign of a good workout.
Yeah, or some people are like, I need to sweat or my heart rate needs to be up or things like that. I think some people have an expectation of, or I need to be sore the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Or I can't walk for 3 days and they think that's a sign of a good workout. So like as a trainer, like have you found yourself, because I know like there's that happy medium because you have individuals that come in and even though you know, let's say AMPK, you don't want any soreness in AMPK or very minimal soreness to not blunt nutrient partitioning, you know this, but that client is kind of like not putting their best foot forward because they're not experiencing that soreness. So if you found yourself, you try to find that happy medium because you know that's actually going to produce better results.
Yeah, sometimes you definitely have to. And I think maybe like something like that, which might be like, I think most other programs you can kind of push something to some extent, whether it's like, okay, we're really going to get your heart rate up and it's going to be more metabolic, or we're really going to go to failure or gain strength. Like you can, but that is one where it's harder to like say, give them something to focus on. I guess usually you can give them something is like, okay, we might not go to failure here, but like we're going to be increasing the weight week or something, right? But yeah, that is one that's harder. So I think I just have to say it is like, this is like almost like a deload. It's like we're taking a bit of time so that the next programs can go better.
Yeah.
It's short, right? It's 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something maybe.
Exactly, right? And I find that it's that fine line because one, you want that client retention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people are investing in you. So if they don't feel like they're getting their money's worth, then that not only can that like create some resentment, because like a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people want to get into personal training because they think it's an easy job. And like the act of standing there and watching somebody lift a weight, well, yeah, that is the easy part. But if you actually invest your emotions into this, then it can be a difficult job because you want these people to get great results, but the best thing for them might not be the best thing for them. And what I mean by that is when you get the psyche involved, right? So if it was a robot and you knew this individual or this robot needed no soreness, that would be fine. But you know this person's like not going to really commit to a program unless they're experiencing some soreness. So then it's that fine line where, okay, although no soreness would be the best thing for you, theoretically it's not because you're not willing to put your best foot forward for this program. And so that I find is like when you asked about like the online coaching and stuff, that's the stuff that you really have to think about and understand. Like you're not just dealing with a piece of paper, you're dealing with a human being and there's lots involved there. And to keep them happy and committed to the program, it was like the conversation with Matthew where it's like, you know, a lot of people want to run, you know, performance enhancing drugs or whatever, and you know they're not ready for it. But if someone has their mindset on that, they're going to do it no matter what. So then you have to find a way to work with this individual to make sure you have their best interests at heart, but also for them to continue to stick to the program.
Yeah.
And that's the difficult part being a trainer or a coach. And a lot of people don't understand that. And we said it in the beginning of the podcast, like you become a therapist, like not on paper, but like people come here and they express a lot of emotions. Like you hear some crazy things sometimes from some people. Definitely. That and hairstylists, right? Like you're just a big source of trust or whatever. So would you say that is something you struggled with in the past, is emotion, like taking on emotion from clients? Or would you say you're relatively good at managing that? We're good. We're all scared now. It's going to cut out.
Yeah, I say the question again. I forgot.
Too worried. So do you take on a lot of emotion from clients? Or are you really good at managing that emotion?
Yeah, actually, kind of interesting. I think at first as a trainer, I think I wasn't as good as like empathizing, and that's something I learned was actually really valuable. So probably at first not taking on enough emotions. I don't find like other people's emotions like necessarily get to me because then naturally I guess I'm a little less empathetic and things like that. But that's something I've tried to work on and try and, because I think it is, because you can't just be like you said, they're not robots. You can't just be like, this is what you need to do. You need to understand people and where they're at. Some people do have like maybe when they check their weight, they feel a certain way, or there's a lot of emotions around different things for sure. Even like going to the gym, people have different maybe they're not comfortable, so like we have to tweak the program or something. But yeah, just empathizing with people and trying to understand where they're coming from is, I think, really important.
Yeah, and I think when people come and they express their emotions, there is an expectation. They have an expectation of you. Right. And so like when they express something to you, they already have something in their head that they're hoping you're going to say or that you're going to do. Right. So for example, like you have individuals come back, and I'm sure you've been in this scenario before where they actually need more food, but they want less food.
Okay.
right? And like that's their when they come and express to you that, hey, look, we want less food. They're hoping you just
people ask you that, can we lower the calories?
yeah, and they're hoping that you're just on board for that, and you're just gonna jump on and be like, okay, yeah, here's less calories. But you know that it's like, no, you're actually not gonna really benefit from less calories right now. And so I find that's also a very difficult aspect as a coach, because I know I've lost clients from that.
Because you're like, no.
Because I just like, look, we can't go any lower with your calories, right? You're still not sleeping. You're still having emotional problems. Your cycle is still off if you're a female. But because they're not, physique isn't where it is, they think that lowering those calories. So I find for me, that's one of the hardest parts. Or like working with gut health can really change your brain chemistry.
Yeah.
And it can make you extremely emotional and put you through some very low lows. And then so when people are going through that, even though I know it's part of the process, I know like that's my weak point as a coach, is I take on way too much emotion, which I'm improving upon or whatever. And so that's why I'm curious to see if that's something that you've done in the past or that you do or whatever, is take on that emotion, because I think it hinders a lot of people. Because one of my old mentor, Cody, he was like, I'm like, how do you do so well at this? He's like, you gotta be a robot, man. He's like, you gotta be a robot. And so
Cody from N1?
Yeah.
He is a robot.
Yeah, I know, that's exactly the thing. But like, so when you like, because have you ever been in that situation where someone's being extremely emotional and you can't make the right decisions because you're taking on their emotion? Have you experienced that?
In that sense, I think so. Yeah, they're like my judgment's clouded by emotion. Yeah, like someone's like, I really want to like lower the calories. So you empathize with that a bit, and you're like, well, you want to understand their point of view too, and like you want them to be happy too. Because it's fine. Also, like you could also just say no, and then that you lose them as a client, or even like at least they ask. Sometimes I've had people who are like, I give them a certain calories, and they're like, well, I only ate this much. I didn't feel like I needed it, or like I wanted to see faster results. So like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a different conversation, I guess. But
yeah,
I guess so. I think it's always a balance. Like I find sometimes if someone, even if they need to maybe have a bit of higher calories for, like, let's say they want to lose fat and they just start coming to me and maybe they need to focus on their health a bit. Sometimes I will like push it a bit. And like maybe we'll focus the first 4-6 weeks on getting them to see some results just to get some buy-in. Because I find sometimes you can't always be like, well, we need to raise the calories rate. Sometimes I'll give them a bit of like what they want a bit and then slowly add in what they need, I guess.
Yeah, right. No, that makes perfect. I understand what you're saying, kind of thing. Because like, so what would you say that's one of the hardest part of being a coach / trainer, or what would you say is the hardest part?
Like the balance?
Yeah, or no, like just like what's just the hardest part of it? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think
could be anything. Was it the process of building this? Is it or something your clients do, or
I don't know. I think part of why I like being a trainer is like it's just solving different problems, and you're like working within what the clients, what they like, what they need, the things they're good at, and things like that. So like working within that framework, but that's also the biggest challenge because everyone is different, and you have to find out what's going to work best for them. Like I don't think you can necessarily have the exact same approach. I think that is the hardest part, is finding out what balance that person needs. Like we're talking about, like how much you need to empathize with them and maybe give them a bit of what they're feeling, and also give them what they need as well, I guess, right? Like so having a balance. Or finding out the best way to communicate with them.
Okay. So what's the best thing about it then?
What's the best thing about training?
Yeah, what's the best thing?
I think definitely just impacted people's lives. Like you can make a big impact for sure.
So could you boil down to one of your, like, do you have a best accomplishment, or do you have quite a few that kind of range the same, or is there something that really stands out that you achieved with one of your clients or even yourself? What's something like that along the lines of that?
Yeah, I think it's hard to compare. Like I've had clients that lost over 100 pounds, or people that like, even I think like things like their lifestyle, like they quit drinking and things like that, or they're sleeping better. Like I think all those things are huge wins for people for sure. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like the biggest weight drop or muscle gain. Like it's not always the biggest results. Just the fact that someone can, I think even for people that's never been in the gym and then making it a part of their life, and like it's been 6 months, a year, and they're consistent with it, I think that's a huge win for sure.
I like that you say that, because I think for myself, what I really love to see is that shift in mindset. Yeah. So for example, like you have people that come to you and they go out for a dinner, and then the next day they're just an emotional wreck. Yeah. They feel like they ruined all their progress. And then 6 months down the road, they go out for dinner and they're totally satisfied. They're totally okay with it. And they just hop back on plan. Yeah. And they're actually better off because they didn't stress over it, wreaking havoc within their body. And for me, I love to see that, because I'm sure, as you know, it can be hard. Like when you're involved in the fitness industry and you're involved in health, like sometimes you become hyper reactive to things, right? And you could eat like a package of cookies one day and you think it's going to give you cancer if you're very hyper reactive when you know damn well that's not the case.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like that. And I've mentioned this to clients before, like you stressing out over eating that package of cookies is going to cause more harm to your body than that package of cookies will. Right? That's why like a good friend of mine, he's actually here with me in Edmonton right now. A guy, pizza, pasta, whatever, he just doesn't care. And so because he's so laid back about everything, he's actually in a decent state of health for who he is, right? And like obviously genetics go a long way and whatnot. So now thinking back all the way, okay, it's harder because you've been doing this for a while now. So try to think back to when you began training and everything. What is some advice you could give? Let's start with someone who just wants to get into training. What's some advice you could give to somebody who wants to seek out the career of a personal trainer?
I think learning as much as you can is important, and I think part of that is definitely just training people and getting more experience in front of people, because I think there's a lot of like tacit knowledge that you can't learn from a book or from a course or something. Like that's all valuable. I think just learning, I guess, some of those soft skills, like managing emotion and things like that we were talking about. I think that's really important. So I think just getting experience and learning as much as you can is.
Do you have some like certifications and courses you would recommend for people wanting to get into personal training?
Yeah, I think a lot of the training certs are like pretty much, I don't think there's a because you typically need like a training certification to like work at a gym. I don't think many of them are like going to give you all the information you really need.
Yeah.
So just whatever you can do to get working faster. But then past that, like I took precision nutrition. It wasn't anything crazy, but I think it gives you an idea of maybe how to work with people. And then N1, which is some of the stuff I've learned from you and stuff, I think is a really good course on just programming and managing training and recovery, and maybe some more advanced stuff as well, but definitely really applicable.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the better ones for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's just a matter of understanding how to apply it is what a lot of people miss, but no, that is a great one too. Okay, so now think back for somebody, what's some advice for someone who wants to start their own private gym?
Yeah. I think like looking back when I started, like it's changed a lot. At first I didn't have all the equipment I had. And I think what's helped out was like people came in, they it wasn't a ton of stuff, but they saw that every other week I was adding some stuff, and I tried to make them feel a part of that, because it's true, like I couldn't have built this without my clients. I was kind of building it along the way, right? So I told them, it was like, and made them feel that like they're a part of it, growing the space, growing the equipment and things like that. So I think just start with what you can. Like, and I think if you have maybe a bit of a reputation, people will come to you even if you only have a little bit of equipment, and then you can build over time. But I think it was a bit different for me coming from like after the lockdown. I probably could have done it differently and like planned ahead and like had some savings and like had a plan for it. That probably would have been a smarter way to do it, I think. I guess that'd be my advice there.
So yeah, I was gonna say, like in terms of preparation, what should somebody be prepared for if they're starting their own private gym? In your personal experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably always good to, I guess it depends where you're coming from. If you already have, because I was in this, like my situation was I was working for a commercial gym, and there was like kind of a non-compete, so I couldn't necessarily like just go and take all my clients. Obviously some people really like me and wanted to kind of stay with me and things like that. So if you already have a really good set of clients, and you have decent income, then it would just be kind of planning the financials to get the equipment and stuff. But I think if you need to, like I did, focus on the business, then it would help to have some like savings in place and things like that. And I think just have a good idea of what equipment you want to. Like I've been to gyms. I always go anywhere I'm in a new city, I'll like check out different gyms just to use different equipment, because I'm always seeing like what's smart. It's like, is this chest press better than this one or whatever it is, like, and I like it. I like really like the mechanics and like the little things of what's, even if it's just a little bit better, I like that side of it, I guess. Yeah, so finding out what you want. I think for what I'm doing in like a smaller one-to-one training is definitely planning the equipment based on the space requirements as well is a big thing. Like, and even the layout of the gym makes a huge difference of how well you can use that space. And then getting the equipment of, like, for instance, like we were talking, I have a hack squat, I'm getting a pendulum. One of the reasons is because of the space, because the weight horn's in the back, so it's not sticking out the side. So it actually does take a little bit less usable space. So I might be able to get another piece if I wanted to, or just have more space. So those are definitely things to think about. Yeah.
Okay. And I think you saying like the gym layout, there's actually like a science to it or whatever, you know. It's like, in terms, like in an area like this, like you know, obviously if you're supersetting, it's not like there's a big distance between or whatever. But when you look at like people coming in and checking out the space or whatever, like this, like obviously this is not the biggest area, but it does not feel crowded.
No.
Like it does not feel crowded at all, right? Like you come in here and it's like, okay, like I don't feel claustrophobic. I feel like I have room to do everything. We don't have to mess with a bunch of things if we have to like change machines or whatever. And so I think that's awesome.
It's really important. I've probably changed the layout like a dozen times. Like everything around, just
a little bit of trial and error.
a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's huge. And even like you said, and I think that is huge. And I think a lot of gyms do miss that. And like even the gym I was at, like they kind of partly why I didn't wanted to leave and stuff was like the gym ended up being like 20% of the space. They started building like a CrossFit studio. So it's like the gym's getting smaller and they moved all their like machines upstairs. So then supersetting got a bit harder because like I can't do a squat or a hack squat paired with a leg extension because you have to like walk a minute up the stairs. Things like that. Whereas here I can like literally walk in 5 seconds. So like it actually makes the programming a lot easier where I can literally do whatever I want. Yeah. Whereas even though the gym does have more equipment, you are kind of limited by the logistics of like moving around the gym, and then it's busy. So like a lot of times, okay, I wanted to do this cable pull around or a bicep curl so I can line up with my elbows back, but it's like, well, the cables are busy at 5 p.m. so you just do some dumbbells and you got to work with what you have, right? But so that's been a really valuable for sure.
No, you got everything, man. You got everything. You say gym, like, oh yeah, like they have more pieces of equipment, but you got everything you need in here, and so that's really awesome, man. So how about you tell everybody, okay, so how can we find you? What do you got going on here? You got a website, you got your Instagram, what do you got going on?
Yeah, I got Instagram, I think any social media, Mac Fitness Coaching, or macfitnesscoaching.com is my website. Okay. I'm kind of getting that started, so I'll be up soon. But yeah, Instagram, Facebook.
So is that how people reach you to inquire about working together?
Yeah, I guess that's where things are going nowadays. Like I could give you my phone number, but the world is so much social media right now.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So, no, I'll definitely be putting your information on this or whatever. So, and as mentioned, Logan's in the Edmonton area. But don't let that stop you because, like I said, it's, you know, these things are worth the trip. Like I drove all the way from Calgary to Edmonton to do this because I respect Logan and he's someone I really wanted to have on the podcast. I envy the total private gym thing. Like I think about just getting up, you're in your slippers and pajamas, you can come out here, get a workout in, you don't got to drive anywhere kind of thing, you know, or drive too far anyways. So no, I think this is awesome. I think you're doing amazing, man. A lot of growth since we first met. And not only just like your business, but you as a whole, you know, and everything. And so it makes me really, really happy to see that. Because I think the way things are going in the industry is there's a lot of people, like we were talking about, they think, you know, personal training is an easy job. So anybody just gets into it. And I think it kind of washes out everything. So to have somebody that you can fully trust and to bring you great results and have your best interests at heart, I think you're one of those individuals. So I'm really happy with where I see you at in life, man. And like you inspire me, you motivate me, man. Like especially like popping up, seeing your Instagram content, like, you know, you're really giving it on that and trying to create your exposure there. And so that's really awesome. So yeah, you guys, so don't hesitate, reach out to Logan if you're in the Edmonton area or even close by. Like I said, I'll put his information below and just shoot you a DM then.
Yeah. Okay,
cool, man. Okay, well, right on. Thanks so much for your time, Logan. Yeah, that was wonderful. And we'll definitely have to do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Okay. Take care, everybody.